Last Friday, we had a big party at the Liberect, at the Gentse Feeste, the Ghent Festival, because we processed 1 billion food orders through our systems. I'll explain a little better what we do. But our CEO and I, we were drinking a glass of champagne, and he said, I'm so happy that we started building our culture from the early days on. Because when it gets really tough, it's the culture that makes all the difference. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. That is what my talk is going to be about company culture. Some information about Deliverect. So we help restaurants and food services with everything that has to do with their digital ordering. Originally, we solved this mess, which you see on a photo. If a restaurant was doing takeaway, they had all the iPads of the delivery services behind their counter. And Deliverect built an integrator for all these iPads into their POS and into the kitchen. And nowadays, there are many more services around for the couriers, for the complaints, for the marketing, etc., etc. Some more numbers. In 6.5 years, we have 60,000 restaurants on our books. 1 billion orders, as I said, and we work in more than 52 countries. And have 12 offices all over the world, from Sydney to Dubai, to Europe, to Toronto, to Mexico. I mean, we can never be in the same Zoom room because there is always someone sleeping. If you look at how we grow in terms of people, this is the graph. You see slow growth and then all of a sudden hyper growth, which means in 1 year time, we grew with 300 people, from 200 to 500 in 1 year time. And that was massive, indeed. And people sometimes say, but how on earth did you guys do something that? And how did you keep that company together? And there are, of course, multiple reasons, but a strong company culture is one of them. And that's what we're going to talk about. So this afternoon, in this very 20 minutes, which is way too short to talk about company culture, I'm going to talk about what it is, why it is important, and how you do it. Let's fly. This is the book I've written because 20 minutes is not enough. You can read the rest in the book. For me, I can give you a very scientific definition about culture from Edgar Schein, who is like the most famous person having written about culture. And he says it's the joint patterns and assumptions and beliefs of a company. But you can even say it much more easily. It's the way we do things around here. That is how you collaborate, what you tolerate, and what you stimulate, and what you absolutely don't want. That is altogether, that is culture. And if you're 5 people working from the same office, in fact, you don't need to describe it because it's there. I mean, in Flemish we say it's in the walls. But of course, nowadays with people working remote, working from multiple locations, it's important to that very untangible things that people feel, that they say that is also in the walls, is to also describe it. So if there is only one thing that you remember from this talk afterwards, is that you have to craft your culture very deliberately, craft as into write down, very deliberately, so that you can also weave it into everything you do. That's my short summary. Now, why is it important? Usually ask the audience, but now you're too far away. In my intro, I said one thing already. A song said, if it gets really tough, it makes all the difference. There are some other reasons. Culture is like your DNA. It's like it's the soul of your company. They often say that culture is like a character. Culture is to a company what is character to a person. It defines you. So it will also define the products you make and the services you deliver. And the better you define them, the better you can craft also your products and your services. The next one is it builds strong bonds. And I have a fantastic, beautiful example from not so long ago. In end of last year, we bought a French company that is building kiosks. And kiosks are these big things that you see in McDonald's where you have to tap in your own order. And so we had said, like, listen, originally, we are going to leave this company standalone for a while, and then we'll slowly integrate. However, we have an Australian customer who sent us a request for 3,000 kiosks, for the deployment of 3,000 kiosks. We said, holy moly, that's tempting. But they needed a prototype within 3 weeks. And so there were a lot of adjustments to be made, which normally would have taken 3 months of development time. And so our product manager rallied the best developers from the French office, the best developers from the Ghent office, and they sat together for a week. They squatted in the Ghent offices, worked day and night. The pile of the pizza boxes grew and grew and grew. And by the end of the week, they had something really presentable. It needed fine-tuning, but it was really presentable. And I mean, you should have seen their faces. Beaming. They're tired, but so happy with everything they had accomplished. And no one was nagging about overtime. That's a result of a strong company culture. And the last thing that I've written down, and which I think is really important, is that if you have a strong culture, you don't need to write down all your processes very elaborately. People sense intuitively what is right and what is wrong, and how you take decisions, and how you deal with failure, etc., etc. If you have to write that down, you'll have a book like that, and nobody is going to read it. Right? Recognizable? So, now we know what it is, why it is important. Now, how do you build it? This is only one slide, but it's a little compact. For me, there are 3 really important steps. First is to define it very clearly. What is that DNA? Then to translate it and weave it into everything you do. And then, of course, maintain it and refresh it. I'll go into each of the points separately. So the defining of the DNA starts with the core team, the management team or the executive team of whatever you call it, and maybe some core people from the organization who sit together and ask themselves a lot of questions. And I have a couple on the slides about way of working. What you tolerate, what you stimulate, what you value, which values you have. And you see the picture with Jan and Zong. These are 2 of our 4 founders. It's Jan Holé and Zong Shu, with a beautiful Lego construction in front of them. That is an exercise I did with them because they are 2 engineers. And if I ask a very broad question as into what is your vision on organization to 2 engineers, I think I'm going to get a very rational answer. And I also wanted to tap into their intuition. So I made them play with Lego. Now, I can't go in detail because we have too much, we don't have enough time. But if you've never heard of Lego Serious Play, then read it in the book or try to find it out because it's an amazing tool. Putting all that information together, but now you have the input of the top management. And I really thoroughly believe is that you start at the top and then you take the organization with you. It is a joint exercise. And you see me do this and see me do that. And in fact, in my presentations, I did that a lot. And someone said, Ingrid, it looks like a vertical hug. I said, yes, okay, then let's call it a vertical hug. You start at the top and you take the belly of your organization and you craft your DNA and your way of working together. Because I'm absolutely sure, because we did that so early with DeliverAct, because we grew so fast, the people who helped define it, they will also much more easily transfer it. And that is why it was so easily transferred. Also, you don't need change management because they helped craft it. And then the next step is translate it into everything you do. And that's a lot of work, because you'd see they're hiring. So it means, okay, if we want to gauge whether my candidate also has that cultural fit, will that person fit in the organization? Okay, what kind of questions are you going to ask to test this? Dismissals. Also, something that happened, we had a fantastic salesperson at Declercq many years ago. He was the best of all the sales team, but he was an individualist, not sharing his leads, offering little support. And we said, that's not Declercq's culture. And I also learned something, because I was sitting on the dismissal conversation, and I told the person why we were going to say goodbye. I said, because your targets are good, but you don't live our values. And he told me, Ingrid, but I'm targeted on sales only. My commission is based on sales, not on the, what he said, fluffy elements. I have to say my mouth fell open. But afterwards I told myself, okay, that means that we have to waive that also much more explicitly in our performance system. So when we're doing evaluations, we will not only evaluate whether a sales is selling well, but also whether that person breathes and lives Declercq values. So that is an integral part of our performance management cycle. And the picture you see is a wall at our office in Ghent, and our barista, yes, we have a barista, has painted these circles on the wall, and it has all frames with people who... Oh, sorry. Yeah, there you are. So she painted on the wall, and with the frames you see are all people who won our Stardust Award, where colleagues can nominate each other for those who live the values most beautifully. What we do see is that you do these kind of actions to bring the values alive, but after a while people get bored about these kind of things, and then you have to sometimes refresh them and you drop that initiative and you do something else. But you see, behind me, there are many things where you have to do the weaving. Because the more you do the weaving, the stronger the culture will be breathed. And then, when we're not done translating, we translate it even to each department. Because if you say one of the values is be a customer champion, be a customer champion for a developer is something totally different as for a salesperson or a customer service person. So I've sat down with all the departments, asking them the question, being a customer champion, what does that mean for you tomorrow? And on the right-hand side, you see a poster from Toronto. I think this was about Together We Triumph, about being together. Okay, what kind of initiatives are you going to take in Toronto? There you go. So the essence, the very important element here is that translation and that weaving. And then the last part, I often compare culture with a campfire. You might have the most beautiful campfire, but if you don't put on a log from time to time, your fire will die. So each time you have to say, okay, what else are we going to do to stir up the fire? I can tell you, that's sometimes very tiring. It's the fun things, but coming up with the ideas is not always so easy. And then from time to time, you also have to refresh your values. You remember that steep graph that you saw at the beginning, where we were from little people, big growth, and then more flat. Now, after 6 years, we're not the same company as 6 years ago. And also in dynamic, in how we work, is very different. So we realized a year and a half ago that we needed to refresh our values. It felt like it was a jacket that didn't entirely fit anymore. And so we say, okay, we have to find ourselves a new jacket, but we're not going to change the style. The style remains the same, but the values need to be adapted to our current circumstances. And then again, I did my vertical hug. I started the exercise with the C-level team, asking them the question, what values do you think we need in order to deliver results and create a thriving working environment? Because both are important. And then I did a road trip through all our offices, asking them the same question. So that, that delivers a 60-page document with a lot of input. Thank you, ChatGPT, because then I fed that into ChatGPT and asked them, give me the 4 overarching themes with a slogan and a description. Whoa, yeah. And of course, because I had done all the sessions, I intuitively knew very well what values would pop up and what would be the most in demand. And then we crafted these values into the no Declercq values. And then the exercise of the weaving and the translating starts all over again. So you see each time the defining, the elaborating, the weaving in, and then the refreshing. It's like a continuous cycle. Yesterday I was at the Impact Circle and someone told me, Ingrid, what a beautiful story. My God, so much work. And I said, yeah, of course, I have to compile it in a session yesterday, in a session of 2 hours. Now in a PowerPoint of 20 minutes. That's really crazy impossible. And of course, you extend it in the time. The sessions in itself are not so long, but you have to plan them diligently. Most of the working sessions that I do with the teams are max 2 hours. But there is an entire plan behind. And you have to start over and over again. But ladies and gentlemen, I can tell you that it is definitely worth it. Yes, we have sometimes people leaving the company for a whole lot of reasons, but very often people come back. We saw some of the Gentse Feesten last Friday, and they said, oh, I miss Declercq. I mean, the culture was amazing. So it's a lot of work, but it is definitely worth it. Thank you very much.
Ask you to join me on stage again, because I have a couple of questions for you.
That was not in the plan.
It is in the plan now, so let's go. Many leaders, they see culture as something soft and intangible. How do you convince leaders that investing in company values, company culture is not just necessary, but really primordial?
In fact, for the entire explanation I've just given.
Yeah.
So it is intangible, but I think people find it intangible, but it is not intangible. That is what I often say. It's not hocus pocus. You can really break it into pieces and install it, and you can measure it. If you ask an EMPS, I mean, you can very clearly do the before and after. Again, not after a couple of months. It takes time. But it is actually not a fluffy subject.
All right. In your book, we can read more about practical tips apart from what you shared here and how we can start working on our company culture. But maybe I want to hear your take about remote working. What do you see as challenges and opportunities going forward in how you can use remote working to also shape company culture even further?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I said originally. I said, if you have a blended, hybrid working, or even if you have fully remote, the crafting of your culture, the explicitly, intentionally crafting of your culture gets even more important. Because if you sit together, again, it's in the walls. But if that is not the case, you have to do it differently. And what I've learned over the years, even if you are hybrid, you have to see each other from time to time. Because these moments when you get together with the entire team, sometimes with the global teams, are so strong. And in fact, that's where you build some capacity and some reserves to go through the next months, which are more hybrid. So there have to be sufficiently company offsites.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing that insight. What's also very important in Deliverect, it's a company that scaled so incredibly fast. So every day new employees were coming. What was the biggest challenge that you encountered from a company culture perspective at Deliverect, and how did you solve it?
I'm going to start with how we solved it. The onboarding process at Deliverect takes a week long, like a full week. And so now it used to be sometimes also in-person courses, but now it is mostly a blend between hybrid and virtual, where people go through what are our products, who are our founders, what stories, beautiful stories at the campfire did we have. And so, but it takes a week long, and people can't start their actual job unless they have done the full week. And it's always the same. When people do that full week of onboarding, it's a lot. And they go like, did I really need to do it? Because sometimes they have to do difficult exercises as well. And afterwards, they say, it was really necessary. Because you take a deep dive from the start, you don't understand everything they're saying in the onboarding course, but it helps you afterwards.
Yeah. So what I take from this is really invest in a good onboarding process, even if it takes a full week. But if they know the company inside out, it's rewarding afterwards.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for all of the lessons you shared. Ingrid Declercq from Deliverect.
Thank you.